Yo, what is up guys, Bobby7King here, and today we are going to be doing a player ranking for Disventure Camp Season 2. Like in my previous rankings, this is just how they play on this individual season. It's not a ranking of them overall as players, as the list would be completely different. Also, this was such a tough list to put together, probably the toughest one I've done yet, where I'm just not really confident in most of the placements. However, I do have my reasons, so we're going to go worst to best, and at number 14 we have the first boot in Oliver, who really does get sniped out because Aiden thinks he's a threat for some questionable logic. However, he was really bad socially, mistreats Maggie, so I doubt the girls would ever let him in, and not to mention James and Carol just didn't care for him in the slightest. He's also the reason his team loses, so there's really no highs to Oliver's game, so he's here at number 14. At number 13, we have the first person voted out from their own team, and it's Kai. And I mean, like what I said with Oliver, no one on his team really cared for him. Although I do think had he had been on the orange team, he likely makes a deep run. But that's just a what if, and I'm talking about what actually happened. However, his blow up on Yule, while iconic, was just a final nail in the coffin for him. At number 12, we have someone who quits the game, and while there's a chance he could have made a deep run, he obviously opted out of it, and it's Connor. Once again, not that much to say. He was on the outs with Rhea, and I do think he gets unlucky with the double elimination, and had he not quit and he stays in the game, who knows how far he would have went. But again, there's just so much unknown and so much downside, so he lands here. At number 11, we have someone who only really survives one vote, and it's Carol, who like many near the bottom of the list just had a bad social game. Even though there's a trio pairing actively working together, James is still gunning for Carol, and she gets taken out. I do think she takes control in the lake vote, but she obviously gets medevaced, and had she not have been medevaced, she's probably still booted with such a bad social game. And with luck never being on her side, she's just here at number 11. At number 10, we have the first of the trio alliance, and it's Maggie, who has such a solid backing in the game with Rosa and Lake. However, once Yule gets hopped over to her team, she just kind of gets screwed with Aiden putting his vote onto James, and she loses a tiebreaker against Yule. There just wasn't enough active play with Maggie, so even though I do think she probably makes it near the end game, if she had won the tie, there's just not enough game to really assess. At number 9, we have the first of Yule's alliance, and it's Allie. The reason why Allie is at the bottom is because, well, she was going to be the first one out of the trio had Tess not quit, so that's bad. She's able to save Hunter with her advantage, which is a pro, but she's really on the bottom from the merge on, and I think there's more to highlight with other players. At number 8, we have another green team member, and it's Tess. The only reason why she's higher is because they were targeting Allie first, although you could say Allie had a better chance of winning the game as Tess wasn't mentally equipped. I do think whenever Tess locks in, she is very capable. Even though Allie was screwed out of immunity when she did get eliminated, I just think that Tess is someone who could connect with people like Rosa, Aiden, and Lake if she stayed longer, so yeah, she's here. At number 7, we have Yule, who really takes control from his green team, taking out Kai and Connor, and then able to survive the Maggie round, which is really impressive. The problem is he goes too far and James has to poison him. However, even then I still think James probably flips on him anyways, and just in general, the farthest Yule was ever getting is 4th, as no one really wanted him to win or even come close to it, and it doesn't help that he's not good at challenges either, so he's here at number 7. At number 6, we have Lake, who is probably the safest throughout the pre-merge, but really gets unlucky in the fact that she doesn't win the first immunity and shows off her threat level, enough that the other side takes their shot at her instantly. I will credit her social ties to Aiden and Rosa, but her game just wasn't that intentional, so yeah, she's here at number 6. At number 5, we have someone who was in a solid spot in the pre-merge, but then at the merge was just scraping by with the challenges and advantages, and it's Hunter. I do think Hunter had a stable strategic mind, and had the swap not happen, he could be in a winning spot, being the best in challenges out of the 4. However, he isn't in the majority and really has to win competitions to stay safe and needs Allie's steal a vote advantage. I will credit his social game for having Rosa help him and convince Aiden to vote for Rhea, but I think putting him higher would feel weird considering how he got there wasn't by social strategy means for half of the merge. At number 4, we have someone who I just mentioned, and it's Aiden. By the way, the fact that Aiden is this high on this gameplay ranking really shows you the caliber that I'm working with. He makes a bad call in the Oliver round, especially since he can see the girls alliance forming on the outs on the Carol and Maggie vote, and gets lucky in the fact that James is in love with him, as if he wasn't, he probably gets magically evacuated. At the merge, Aiden is on the correct side on the test vote, but is on the outs on the lake vote, has a bad read that James flipped, which isn't great, but after Carol and Allie go, he's really guaranteed a spot in the finale. Mind you, it's probably because he's the easiest to beat in challenges, but he was good socially and didn't need competitions to stay in the game, so even though I think Hunter probably played a better game on paper, I think with my philosophy on the game, Aiden just has to be above him. At number 3, and honestly, I've changed this list so many times at this point, but once again, if you saw my Carnival of Chaos gameplay ranking, I have the winner in James Costa. who really has a very turbulent game throughout the entire season. He makes a bad choice in the first 2 votes, yet makes a very savvy move with some Maggie and Yule rounds. At the merge, he is in the no for the Tess and Alley rounds. He is on the outs of the lake round, and socially no one but Aiden really trusted him. Combine that with his hit or miss strategic mind, I just really couldn't put him at number 1 even though I really wanted to, and in the beta I believe I had him at number 1. But on this ranking and on this remake, he's here at number 3. At number 2, we have someone who I had at number 2 the first time, I believe, and it's Rosa. And Rosa was constantly outside of the lake round, in control socially and strategically for most of her run. She finds an idol, has a trio lines where she's probably the last to be targeted, which is insane. And even though she was swapped onto the other side, I don't think that her or Rhea turn on each other at that point of the game, so that's very impressive. But yeah, no complaints, it's just that Rhea ends up flipping on her at Final 5 for being the biggest social threat, and I do think the person at number 1 does outplay Rosa. At number 1, I'm actually really impressed with this person's game, and it's Rhea. I think, yeah, pre-swap she wasn't in a good spot whatsoever, however once Rosa hops over to the other team, she's in a decent spot, and at the merge, she's a central player. I don't think any issues with the votes that she did. Targeting Tess and Alley, getting out Lake so she becomes Rosa's number 1, stealing Rosa's idol and exposing James, causing him and Aiden to be fighting, so she has an easy road to victory. At the merge, she navigates the game very smoothly, and unlike the rest of the cast, loses because she loses a challenge. I mean, also Maggie lost because of a challenge, but we're not talking about Maggie at this point. So yes, while her pre-swap game is bad, she probably gets voted off over Connor, she's able to bounce back very well, so yeah, she's here at number 1. But that is the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This player ranking, while it was shorter, it was a lot harder since everyone played relatively but evenly flawed games. But I do think I'm content enough with the ranking, so yeah, there's that. Huge shout out to Fluffy for the thumbnail, their account is in the description below. And while you're at it, just join the Discord as well. But yeah, that's the video. Thank you guys so much. Peace out. Love you guys. Bye.